Good afternoon, Sean here from Mountains Garage. Let's shut that noise off. I'm doing some experimenting with the tumbler, the red one, obviously, with a few carburetor pieces in there and some stainless pins. It's made for tumbling brass for reloading and for polishing rocks with different media. So I put a metering block and a few other carburetor pieces in there. Let's see what they look like after 15 minutes. So this is kind of a hybrid application, but I bought stainless pins, 10 pounds, 2 5-pound bags. That's what my buddy uses to tumble his brass for reloading. And I put in 5 pounds, I put in my 3 carburetor pieces, and it took off rolling on this, and it was going okay. I gave it about 5 minutes and was already impressed with the results, so I figured if 5 pounds are good, 10 pounds must be better. According to the instructions, you can fill this 3/4 away with rock and put in media and liquid and it'll still tumble it. So I'm thinking 10 pounds of media and a few carburetor parts is nothing, right? So I put the 10 pounds in. It ran about 5 minutes on here and seized right up. Started squeaking. It had to even squeak. It just kind of stopped. And I had to push it to get it rolling. So I suspected it was something wrong. It does not mention oil in the nylons that the axles ride on, but 4 drops of Marvel Mystery Oil. And I took out half the pins again. Not quite half the pins again, so. And I've been tumbling now for 25 minutes, and it looks pretty good. Now, I wish I'd done it before, but this stuff is junk. I mean, this one is actually in the other video. It's all white and nasty looking. I didn't clean it or anything, just threw it in there. I didn't clean the backside. And didn't quite get to that, but the top cover looks nice. And this was an old rusty carburetor spring, inside and out. She looked pretty good. Now, it was just an experiment. See if it would save something like that. So I'm going to call it a success and actually try it on a couple real carburetors. These are just junk parts I wanted to try. Sacrificial, if you will. And hope for the best. I won't lie, I was pretty happy when I saw that both the tumbler and my media were made in USA. The media is fine. Now you got to get used to finding these little pins through everything. Like for instance in the carburetors, they're going to have to make sure it didn't migrate into a hole somewhere. The tumbler itself, I'm going to have to say the quality is middle of the road at best so far. It wobbles. It's noisy. Motor gets hot. We'll see. We interrupt this video for a public service announcement. This is the boot. About 10 years ago, I had already spent 15 years working on this giant sea of cement. The place was huge. Everywhere you had to walk it seemed like 1/8 of a mile. And I always wore my boot off to one side. Must walk like a cowboy, I guess. So I never really tried the good shoes, Red Wings and stuff. I'd wear cheap shoes. And we didn't have a shoe policy, didn't have to wear steel toes, so. Perfect storm where my foot pain got so bad I was going to change careers. Because being on that cement every day, it was awful. Terrible. It seemed like the bones of my feet would open up and meat would slide inside and get squeezed together every time I took a step. So, out of desperation, and at the same time we also got a boot policy, but I had actually done this about a year before that. Slip-on, steel toe, Redback is the brand, Blundstone is also another one. They're both made in Australia, and this thing saved my career, if you can call it that. Not only that, I wear them like slippers 7 days a week. I won't wear anything else. I very occasionally will wear a sneaker somewhere, but this is it. I mean, I would never dream of walking around in flip-flops and stuff like that because this thing is way more comfortable. I keep showing you my boot. Awesome. They don't wear out. I don't wear the size. I got 10-year-old boots that look just like my newest pair. I do wear out the toe from kneeling down. When I'm kneeling down and my foot's on the pavement like that, or I'm getting up and down. But they make plastic caps that I glue on there after a while, after I wear a hole in it. And I gotta tell you, it is so comfortable. They don't sweat. they slip off and on because I work right behind my house. I go in and out of my house. I don't want to track stuff in there, so I take my shoes off at the door. It's like taking off a slipper. In fact, they're right next to my slippers. They're outside slippers. I mean, I'm serious. I look like a fool walking around with shorts and my black boots on, but I don't care. I'm comfortable. And those boots are about $175. But again, they don't wear out. You'd buy 5 cheap pair by then and walk around in pain. So enough about that. The beauty of making these videos, I don't have a clue what I'm going to say next. These shop life videos. I don't even know what I'm going to call it. I just talk about whatever comes to mind. And we're already talking about PPE, personal protective equipment, so let's talk about gloves and why I wear them. I have had my hands in grease and Savasol or cleaners or transmission fluid since I was an early teenager, probably before, because I was fixing bikes and putting everybody's chain back on. So my hands have been greasy forever, and I always did a pretty good job, even though I didn't wear gloves, of keeping my hands clean. My buddy and I couldn't wait till we get the pots washer tanks full of new cleaner, because we'd get our hands clean. They'd come out white as a ghost, and then we'd dip them in transmission fluid, just to put the oil back in our skin. Genius moves. But so you think you're big and tough now, right? You spent your career, gloves are for sissies. You're not so tough when the doctor comes in, closes the door, and tells you what kind of cancer you have and asks one question: what were you exposed to? That was my experience. Fortunately, I lived through it. I'm still here. I wish I'd worn these my entire career. I fabricate in these metal gloves. The other day, it stopped a grinder. The glove got ripped. My skin didn't. I took a picture, showed it to a friend of mine. Saved again by these stupid gloves. Other than doing carpentry, which I have to do barehanded because I haven't mastered wearing these outside, I guess, or whatever. But when I'm in the shop, it feels strange at this point. Now, I've been a mechanic my entire life to touch tools and stuff without having gloves on. You get that comfortable in them. And I don't go through that many. I let them, if I don't put a hole in it, I'll let them dry out. I got 4 or 5 pair going all at once. There's probably some right behind me. And because I'm pretty thrifty, they're $10 a box, and I'll get quite a while out of that. Your attitude changes when you buy them yourself and you're not getting them for free. Nah, truthfully, I've always been pretty conservative. So, but yeah, personal protective equipment. You only got 2 eyes, 2 hands, 1 body. It's not cool. It doesn't make you tough. Why didn't somebody tell me this when I was young? Did you ever wonder how you figure out this angle right here without going through a lot of pipe? Now, for years I've done it the hard way, of course. Only recently, angle finders, you can buy a commercial version of this. This is just 2 pieces of flat bar, 1/4 inch bolt and a wing nut. What I like about this is it's smooth. I put it, I'll butt it there and there. Pretty much find the angle right in the middle, and I'll mark either side. That way you've got a good idea what angle has to be cut on. And then go place it on the new tube. I'm not that good with it yet that I'll cut it exact length. I do leave it a little bit long in case I got to modify. And so far I haven't wasted too much tube. Well, let's just say it looked like that. I'm going to lay it on my angle and cut those angles and start fitting it. And it works pretty good. You got to do something. I've built a lot of headers and stuff. And if you start at the engine and work toward the collector, it's a lot easier than connecting 2 pieces that are, 6 or 8 inches apart or whatever. The further apart, the easier it would be to hook them up. But a lot of things come into consideration, but that's the way I do it. All right, so this video might win an award for being the most random, but I'm sure I'll top it eventually. I'm going to repeat myself in later videos about what I'm going to say, but my first 2 cars were big block Chevys, 396 and 454 Chevelles. And then I proceeded to collect and put big blocks in everything I had. I had 2 small blocks, I think, trucks in my entire lifetime. I built a ton, I don't know how many, stock rebuild 350s for Frito-Lay trucks and delivery trucks my brother-in-law used to work on. He'd call me up and say, hey, I got an engine to put together. It's all machine. Just come over and throw it together. And I'd go over after work and do that. Yeah, it's just simple work. But it makes you good at assembling. well, it teaches you bad habits too, but race motors are different. They take a little more time, double, triple checking everything. So I've never built a small block for myself, a good one. When I started building the Model A, which Facebook just told me I've had for 10 years now, and that makes me sad. So I also got to get on that. My brother probably thought I was going to put a small block in it and bought me this really cool low-rise dual quad intake. And I put an LS in it. But vowed to myself that someday I'm going to build a small block to go with that intake. And then 10 years later, he actually has all the pieces of a 377 for sale. And I bought it, and I'm going to build it and put that intake on it. So that's one of the things we're going to do, or you can follow along. I also got another 400 block from him, 4-bolt main, and I had a 421 rotating assembly I'd bought. So that's also at the machine shop. I'm excited to see it when it comes back. I'll fill you in on who did the work and stuff. Here in Maine. And I've sold off all my big block stuff, and I sold my last drag car. I had a few other big block parts, and pretty much everything was gone. Well, you're never fully clear of it. I have some heads here and there, but the cast iron big block head, I will not build another engine with iron heads, ever. I mean, I went mid-nines with iron heads. I mean, you build a lightweight tube chassis car, and then you put a Dana 60 in it and an iron block, big block Chevy. Doesn't make any sense. There's lighter stuff out there, so it'll have some kind of aluminum head on it. Maybe cheapies, I don't know. Just going to be a street motor. Well, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. I started collecting a couple big blocks, and I don't know. I'll probably put one of those together too. And I still got a whole shed full of LS motors, and that should be my focus because they're the best bang for the buck. But I've kind of got sucked back into the traditional ones for a brief moment in time, and they cost a lot of money. The LS stuff is still cheaper, I guess, if you're using the factory stuff, which you can to a certain point. Where I've said before, small and big block Chevys, you pretty much throw everything away, and except for the block, maybe the crank if you got a good crank, but typically the crank too. You're using the block. Everything else is you got to buy if you're going to make any power. But I'm rambling again, so this is it for today, or this week. I'll talk to you next week. Like and subscribe. Take care.